Hello and welcome back to POS-X Labs. Today we'll be going over the process for changing the cutter head in an XR510 printer. For this task, you'll need an XR510 printer. You'll need a new cutter head. You'll need a number 1 Phillips screwdriver, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, and a thin flathead screwdriver. The first thing we'll need to do is go ahead and remove our paper from the printer, and then what we'll do is take off this front panel, and then I'll show you how to disassemble it. So go ahead and set our paper aside. And we remove our front flap by pulling down on the tab. We go ahead and set that aside, and then we'll flip the unit over and we'll remove the screws from the bottom. And the 2 screws along the top are longer screws. And just keep that in mind, because as you remove the screws in this process, certain screws are going to go with certain parts of the process. You want to keep things separate. So we'll remove our long screws using our number 2 Phillips screwdriver. And we'll set those aside. And then we'll continue around until we remove all the screws from the case. And then we'll remove the 2 screws that hold on the front cover. And once we have those removed, we'll just slide that up and out. There we go, and then we can set that aside. At this point, we'll remove the 2 screws in the front of the unit, which will allow us to clear our bezel away from the top of the case. We'll use a number 1 Phillips screwdriver for that. Go ahead and back those screws out. Once we're done with those, we'll set that aside, and we'll set the machine down, open it up, and then we should be able to remove the bezel around the top. And we'll take that bezel off, pulling it up, it should just come clear. You'll notice there's a clear piece of plastic that covers your LED lights. Sometimes it gets stuck to the bottom of the bezel, but if not, then you need to go ahead and take that out and set that aside. Next, we'll go ahead and pull the cover off, but you're going to need to get it over the power switch. And that's what our flathead screwdriver is for. We'll go ahead and get it in there, and you just basically want to get enough leverage on that power button to get the case over it, and you should be able to slide the case up and off of it. Once we've gotten the case over the power button, we can just slide the case off. We can set that aside. Now we'll have to remove the lever that opens the lid. So what we'll do is go ahead and open that lid by depressing that lever, and then we'll remove this screw in the center, and that'll allow us to pull that lever straight up off the shaft and set it aside. So we'll use our number 2 Phillips screwdriver for this. Set that screw aside, pull that lever straight up. It'll come clear, whole assembly comes off. And then we also want to remove this other smaller piece of the lever assembly, and that just comes straight up and out. We can set that aside. At this point, we removed all the extraneous pieces, and so we'll remove the cutter head itself. It has 4 screws on the sides and 2 screws facing down. We're going to remove all of those screws using our number 1 Phillips screwdriver. So go ahead and do that now. I usually remove my side screws first. And then once all of those are removed, I will go ahead and remove the ones that are facing downwards. Remove those 2 screws. And then the cutter head should come away cleanly. Now we've removed all 6 screws from the cutter head assembly, and we can just pull it up and it'll come off. And then we'll need to unplug it from the printer itself. So go ahead and disconnect that cable at the printer housing. Set that aside. We'll put our new cutter head on. We're going to plug it in first. The plug is a shaped plug, so it only goes on one way. And then we can put our cutter head back down over the top, and we'll reattach it using the downward facing screws first. And then go ahead and put the rest of the screws back into the cutter head, making sure it's securely mounted. And then once that's complete, we'll want to reattach our lever assembly. We'll go with the small one first. Slides down over the shaft. And then we'll take our larger lever, put it in position, making sure that it links up with that smaller lever in the proper order. And then we'll reattach the screw that holds the large lever in place using our number 2 Phillips. Once we're done there, we can go ahead and close our lid. Everything's working correctly. Next, what we're going to do is put our cover back on. See these 2 tabs in the back on this hinged cover? We want to make sure that those line up with the slots on the back of the case. We'll flip that cover over, slide it down. Remember, you're going to have to get it over your power button again. You may have to use your flathead screwdriver, you may not. It just depends. But remember, you also want to line up those tabs on the back and make sure that everything's lining up well before it's finally assembled. So there we go, line those up. It's all attached. Our on-off button is in the right position. Now we can go ahead and attach the screws into the base, holding the printer and the case together. Remember, your long screws go on the top, shorter screws go on the bottom. And once you've completed this process, you can go ahead and put the downward sliding cover back on, and we'll attach it with 2 screws. And once that's secured, we can flip the unit over and we'll put the bezel back on. So go ahead and pop that case or that lid open. We'll put our LED light cover back into position. And then we'll slide the bezel up and over and attach it to the case. We'll attach the front first, and then we'll apply pressure to the top, rear, and it'll snap into place. And then we can go ahead and reattach those screws in the front. 2 screws there. And we'll go ahead and put our cover back on by putting it down first and then pushing it into position. And there we go, mission accomplished. If you have any other questions or concerns, feel free to contact us. My name is Shane from POS-X Labs. POS-X, point of sale simplified.